how you guys doing? Great, great, great. So, as Ms. Greenberg said, my name is Britton Lofton. I am the National Policy Coordinator for ROC United, or also called Restaurant Opportunity Centers United. And I just want to thank you guys and thank you for coming out today, and thank you for having us and allowing us to be here in front of you talking about the things that we care about the most and those things that happen and go on behind the kitchen door. I'd like to thank Ms. Greenberg. I'd like to thank Michelle McIntyre and the staff at the National Consumers League. I'd also like to thank the AFL-CIO and the Public Welfare Foundation for their support in this event and many other events to come in the future. So, without further ado, I want to show you something that I am really excited about showing you. I mean, it's always got a warm welcome every time we show you.
Here is your spaghetti, sweetie. No! Don't eat that. You missed a spot. Great. That looks delicious, honey. Eat up. So are these germs organic? It's like a vintage chicken pox with maybe a hint of strep throat.
Ooh, that sounds delicious.
I love this place. Oh, thank you. I love this place.
Want to know the truth about your meal?
Yes, this video was quite funny, but it also brings to light many issues that the restaurant industry faces, and many issues that we at ROC United and the ROC local offices hope to address locally and nationally. So you know who we are. I'm going to tell you a little bit about what we do. So from Los Angeles to New York, there are local policy campaigns that we're waging all across the states. In LA, we're fighting for paid sick days and against wage theft. In Miami, we're fighting for a local paid sick days ordinance. In New York, we're fighting for a paid sick days ordinance. In Michigan, we're fighting for restaurant workers locally. And so that in New Orleans, we're fighting for a right to return for restaurant workers, a right to return ordinance. So these are all policies that affect restaurant workers and help create a positive work environment for them and help create a better place to come to work and make a living. So another portion of the pieces that we bring together is also our national policy campaign. I'm sure, I don't know if you guys know, but there was a bill introduced in the 112th Congress called the Fair Minimum Wage Act, which would have raised the tip minimum wage to 70% of the minimum wage and raised the minimum wage to $9.80. So we've pushed for that bill and worked with those authors of those bills to get those bills passed. So that's nationally. There's also the Healthy Families Act by Congresswoman Roseanne DeLauro, which we are working to pass as well. That was introduced in the 112th Congress. We are working really hard to make sure that it's reintroduced in the 113th Congress. That bill would provide paid sick days or earned sick days for establishments with employees with 15 or more employees. It would provide 7 paid sick days. So that's a little bit on the policy front, so you get a picture of what we do. We also have national workplace justice campaigns. We have nearly 85 workers in national litigation against Capitol Grill in Miami, New York, Chevy Chase, Maryland, Los Angeles, and Chicago. So workers are standing up. They are saying enough is enough and I'm tired of it, and let's fight back. Our national efforts to lift the standards are something that we really believe in, and that we come to work every day putting our feet to the ground and really trying to make things a little bit better for the restaurant worker. I myself used to make $2.13 an hour at a Darden restaurant, Red Lobster. We all know those guys, Darden, Bahama Breeze, those guys, right? And I am happy to be a part of these campaigns to change that. The minimum wage has been that way for 20 years now. That's a lifetime, right? And the NRA was successful in keeping the tip wage down to $2.13 an hour. But now is not the time, to raise the minimum wage, to lift the floor. For the lowest wage worker means to lift the floor for everyone. The cost of living is going up. It's going up. Gas, we know gas, right? Some restaurant workers, basic needs like health insurance, or they're forced to the public assistance lines. And that's not the America that we come to love, nor is it the place that we all come to visit and frequent and toast and have drinks and good times and say well wishes to our friends. So I do have another video for you guys.
Do you eat ethically? So, do you eat ethically?
I think we have some depth on what we're actually the problem that we're seeking to solve here. And right now, I'm going to bring up the folks that are actually doing it right. Rock DC members, restaurant owners and runners, Chef Tate of Inspired Barbecue, and Andy Shallal of Busboys and Poets. And they're doing it right. They're doing something different, and they're successful at it. And so at this point, I want to bring up, so I don't ramble, I'll continue to ramble if I sit here. I want to bring up the Rock DC High Road Coordinator, Stephanie Roth.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Thank you all for coming, and I'd like to especially thank Chef Tate and Andy Shallal. Quick introduction of the two of them. They're two of our best high road restaurant owners here in DC. Andy Shallal is the owner of Busboys and Poets and Eatonville. He's also an artist activist, an activist and restaurateur. He's extremely active in the DC community. He sits on numerous boards, including the Washington Peace Center, Think Local First, and Rock DC's High Road Roundtable. Chef Tate is a native Washingtonian, and he's the owner and chef of Inspire Barbecue. He also runs a back-of-the-house training program for youth in DC, where he teaches back-of-the-house skills, and is working to inspire and train young people to excel in the food industry. So thank you both so much for coming and joining us
Thank
today.
you for having us.
It's a
Thank
pleasure.
You. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, I wanted to start with a question about paid sick days. You both are, actually benefits in general we'll start with. You both are on our High Road Roundtable. You both have been highlighted in our Diner's Guide as ethical restaurants. Everybody in the audience should have a Diner's Guide in their packet that they can see with all 9 restaurants in DC that we have highlighted.
It's a great guide. You should keep it in your pocket.
Yes. But you both offer paid sick days, and you both pay over minimum wage to all of your non-tipped workers. And so I was wondering today, what drives you to continue to provide these excellent benefits to your employees? And why do you feel that it's important to offer these benefits when most people in the restaurant industry currently are not?
Andy?
Chef Tate?
Well, see, I follow you so much, so go ahead. Come on.
I think this kind of stuff just makes sense. It's really nothing more than that. I mean, I get sick, everybody gets sick. It's one thing we all have in common as human beings. And if I have to choose between paying my rent or coming to work, that just seems like an unfair choice. It seems like it really just makes sense. I'm surprised it's not been around longer. I always hear stories, from my fellow restaurateurs that it's going to bring the business down, that people will go broke and restaurants will close and everybody's going to move to Virginia, and that was the same argument they had when we were talking about having non-smoking in restaurants, and I was one of the people leading the charge to stop smoking in restaurants. People were having the same arguments, and they'd have the same arguments about minimum wage and everything else. It's changed over time. And I think sometimes people just need to get on board because they're completely opposite the tide and where things should be going. So I think from my perspective, it makes perfect business sense. There's nothing that I'm going to tell you they don't already intuitively know. People that have benefits stay longer. People that have benefits have more loyalty to the place they work in. All of these things I think add up to just making perfect business sense. And we've been fortunate in that we've been doing this for some time now that we actually have a track record. The fact of the matter is less than 10% of our employees use sick leave, the sick leave that we have offering them. Most people want to work and like working. That gives them a reason to wake up in the morning. And the fact of the matter is that the sick leave we do offer really amounts to a fairly minimal amount of from the bottom line. Less than 1% of our payroll is attributed to sick leave. So we have a record. Oftentimes that's the argument you hear from restaurants and from businesses, that it's going to get us broke. And we have been expanding and expanding rapidly. We have hired lots more people, and we continue to be profitable, and we offer sick leave. So it's a no-brainer.
Well, like you said, it makes sense, and because of Rock and people like everybody who goes into a restaurant and says, you should be home, not serving me my food. You saw the video. So often, if we do not push policies are not established or changed. And it does make sense. Think about it. You go to a restaurant and somebody is actually serving you and you know they should be in bed or in a hospital, you're not coming back to that spot. So it makes sense. It makes dollars. And then when you actually, like you said, implement the policy, the staff appreciates it in a way that they begin to care about the business beyond your caring for them. They begin to see that what they do to keep themselves healthy is important because they want to show up to work. I mean, I've had people talk about taking the vitamins. Did you get your vitamins today? I had people talking about actually being healthier as staff so that they don't take off and they don't get sick. So I think it really opens up a mindset that actually foster healthy behaviors that actually transitions to the customer. So at the dollar bottom line, my staff is happy, the customers are happy, the customer comes back. And the policies are easy to implement when you start with the clear understanding that it's more than just money that we're in business for.
That's great. A follow-up question on the policies of paid sick days. This is something that I've been wondering, and I think a lot of restaurant owners also wonder, is really just kind of the fine details. So what do you do when your dishwasher calls in sick, or the only host that you have on duty that day calls in sick? How do you deal with staffing needs on such a short notice?
I think it's not easy, and I know it can get fairly complicated when you're dealing, especially with a small pool of employees that you have to work with. I think a lot of it has to do with communicating with your staff and really letting them know that you're in together to make this happen. That oftentimes people who are not feeling well know that they're not feeling well the night before. You know, we tell our staff to please let us know. Don't call in first thing in the morning, unless you absolutely have to, it's an emergency. But call the day before and say, you know what, I'm just not feeling well, and we can make arrangements to replace them. There's always going to be a situation where somebody is going to, call out is going to cause hardships to the space. But an owner can also get in an accident on their way, and the car. And he has to be taken to the hospital, and that creates all kinds of hardships, right? I mean, so I think hardships are there, they're part of life. I've been in smaller restaurants, I've owned smaller restaurants and owned, bigger restaurants. The challenges aren't that much different. I think a lot of it has to do with also keeping that trust between you and the employee, because yes, I think a lot of people are concerned about abuse. People are gonna call out when they're really not sick, because they're planning a party or they just want to do nothing at home and want to use up the time for whatever reason. That happens. It's not that it doesn't happen, but it really is the rare occasion that it happens than it is the norm. We've seen that in our place. I think if you create a communal kind of space where people actually are cared for and feel like they're cared for and feel like they're part of a community, they're less likely to take advantage of a situation like this and much more likely to be actually calling their colleagues to say, I'm not feeling well, can you come out and work for me? Shift swapping can happen. All kinds of things can happen that can make it a lot easier for the restaurant to operate.
It starts with policy. Letting your staff understand this is a policy to help them, not another thing that they have to do on top of everything else. It also fosters, like you just said, a community base where you don't abuse it. And I found that when they don't abuse this, they don't abuse other things like
Right.
eating and drinking when you're not around, like, oh, give me a get a soda. So it begins to develop a policy or procedures in the restaurant culture that you begin to think about not abusing other things, not just coming in late. You begin to care because when I don't show up, it affects everybody. And now this person that I'm affecting because I stayed out too late last night or I got drunk last night because I just got a paycheck, I'm affected by that person. And even though you might look me in the face as the owner and say, dude, I'm not showing up, now you have to look at your coworker who's just like you saying, you affected me and I know you weren't sick. So if it develops that policy, letting them know that they're part of that policy, repeating it, it actually develops a relationship that helps set a tone that affects the whole business as it grows. And we've actually stepped back the staff and really seen it affects so many other things. Because truth is truth. If you're sick, you're sick, and if you need help, you need help. And for them to be able to know that they can come without lying and say the truth, it actually changes. It has changed my infrastructure a lot.
I think some of the laws that are being proposed really are somewhat unfortunate. I know that DC is ahead of many other states in so many ways, but I think with this issue about sick leave, they've put a policy in there. I think if I read the law correctly, that if a restaurant or an operation offers some kind of leave, whether it's vacation or other kind of leave, then that really makes them exempt from sick leave, if I understand it correctly. And that to me is really nothing but encouraging people to make up stories, because it shouldn't be like if I use up my sick leave, I'm going to use up my vacation. That seems like an unfair choice as well. So I'd love to see the law be such that it allows for the reality that every person gets sick sometime during the year, and that they also need to have time off that's other than just sitting in bed and throwing up or being sick all day.
And with this flu epidemic that we're in Washington with, I mean, it's good to know that even when I know one of the staff, because we're a small company, we're not a huge company at all, but it makes me know that if Ms. Brown, because everyone is Ms. Brown sick, I'm going to call her up. I'm going to say, how you doing? Because a lot of times when you're sick, you're by yourself. You don't have someone making sure that you have those essentials. So when you have other coworkers doing the same thing, not just, are you coming to work tomorrow? Are you coming to work tomorrow? But are you okay? It actually has really changed the way I do business a lot.
Yeah, true.
We need more employers like the both of you, which leads me to my next question. In the survey released today by the National Consumers League, 92% of consumers, an overwhelming number, reported that it's very important that the servers and cooks in restaurants they frequent do not cook or serve while sick. Why do you think more employers...
What did the other 8% want? That's what I'm curious about.
That is a good question.
I want to meet them.
Maybe. So my question is, maybe they wanted to
Like,
get
really?
sick so they wouldn't have to go to work the next day. So why do you think more employers aren't offering paid sick days? And what can consumers do to let more restaurant owners and managers know that this is something that's important to them?
I'm sorry, I didn't.
That's okay. So why do you think more employers aren't offering paid sick days?
Oh, okay.
You want me to start this one?
Yeah, go ahead,
Okay,
you start.
Well, I think because we're not actually advocating enough or making enough noise as consumers that this is what we want. We, the consumer, basically can and should continue to pass out that video and get it around so that when you walk into a restaurant, you know truthfully that it starts with you, because this is why we're in business, to serve you. So often we forget that we as a consumer mandate or have the power to mandate policies in these restaurants that are taking our money. So me as a company, my company was not founded just to make a dollar. We actually are training high school individuals and giving them processes of working ethically so that they can go into higher restaurants and higher opportunities. So if we don't set a precedent that they have the ability to ask intelligently for their rights, you have the right to say, this should be fair because it should make sense to you as a business owner. And I'm going to make sure everyone else that works with me asks also. So often, I really believe that we just don't push the issue and make the changes that needs to be changed.
I think this is more than just a consumer issue. I think this is a human rights issue. And I think if we keep looking at it as a consumer issue, it's like, okay, when are we going to wait? Do we look at racism as a consumer issue? Do we look at any of those other things as consumer issues? They're not. These are like human rights issues. We either decide as a society this is the right thing to do, or it's not. If we say it's not the right thing to do, well, let's just say it. But if we all agree, and I've been in many, many panels, and I was in Baltimore not long ago, and there was a bunch of people, politicians from all kinds of different, counties and cities and all of that, all over Baltimore. And one employee after another got up and told their horror stories about throwing up and having diarrhea while serving food. It grossed me out. It made me not want to eat out. It's like, stop saying that kind of stuff because it's hurting my business, you know? It's like, you know, yeah. So for me, you know, it's like, this is common sense. Nobody that was sitting in the audience had never had diarrhea or had never thrown up, right? So what am I telling them that they didn't already know? So for us to constantly be getting up and saying, you know, people get sick on your food and all this, people know what that looks like and know what it feels like. There's no reason to constantly be doing this. It's time to really just make it a human rights issue, and as a society say, this is the only way we can operate as human beings to one another. It makes no sense. Even in the most underdeveloped countries, they understand this stuff. I come from Iraq originally, and under Saddam Hussein, people had sick leave everywhere, okay? I'm not kidding, okay? Now, why is it okay that under Barack Obama, we don't have sick leave throughout the country, okay? Is Saddam Hussein better than Barack? I'm just asking.
Yeah, he's fun to hang out with. I'm telling you.
I don't know
We'll
how to
have you
follow
cracking
it.
Just
up all
food
the
for thought.
time.
That's all I'm saying, you know?
No, I think that's really an important question to ask, and I think it is a human rights issue as well as a consumer issue, as well as a workers' rights issue. So, seeing as that I think a lot of people in the audience today are coming at it from a consumer standpoint, what can they do when they are eating out at restaurants to let owners and managers know that this is something that's important to them?
What can restaurants do? Why don't you take that?
Or what can consumers do?
Consumers do?
What would, if you were
I
not
should really
already
pay attention to your
offering,
questions.
I know. If you were not already offering paid
Pay
sick
attention to
days,
what?
what could a consumer say to you to get you to change your mind?
Well, I guess it's everyone saying the same thing intelligently. I really would love to have those videos go viral. I mean, I would really love that. I mean,
I don't. Okay, so let's be clear here. I think this is bad for business. It's like what was it? There used to be this competition between McDonald's and Burger King about who has the best burger, and so they constantly have these ads, right? So kind of the unwritten code was you don't trash the other person's burger. That if you start talking about the worms that they put in McDonald's burgers and like the way the cows are treated and all of this, it's gonna gross people out to burgers, period, and they won't even eat at Burger King. So they decided they're gonna make this truce, right? They're not gonna trash each other's product because everybody's selling burgers and you don't wanna make burgers look really, really disgusting. So let's agree, we don't want to make food or going out being disgusting. So let's
But see, I love these videos so much, and I'm telling you, your friends will love them also. And so when they go inside, the restaurant, they won't be grossed out because they'll be informed. They'll be intelligent consumers, and we both love intelligent consumers. And that intelligent consumer will have a heart because he's aware now of. So often, my grandmother told me to always ask the waiter, "How you doing? How you doing today?" And trust me, that means a lot, not just to the waiter, but how that waiter is going to respond to the rest of her or his day. And I think if more of us had that care when we go out, that would make that whole experience. And it has helped me a lot. When the restaurants, I might be trying to put my money together and say, I know I really can't afford to be here, but that waiter understands that I care. So if you know that they need you to care for them by asking and by commenting based on what we learn from these videos, I think everybody can have a better consumer experience, and their businesses will continue to grow also too, because an intelligent consumer is like a customer coming back, and we both want that as business owners. Right, Andy?
Right.
Good answer. Okay, so providing training and opportunities for advancement are also extremely important benefits that we don't often talk about in the restaurant industry. How and why do you both offer training to your employees? How are your internal promotion policies beneficial to your staff and to your bottom line?
Training as it relates to, you mean this particular issue, or
Nope, we're going
in general?
totally different topic, just benefits.
Oh, this is a different topic.
Yes.
Okay. I'm ready to switch. Okay. Training is something really interesting in the restaurant business, because oftentimes you have high turnover, and people come. Sometimes they work in restaurants for different reasons. Sometimes just a transitional job. Sometimes it's they're just kind of sort of dabbling around to see if that's what they want to do for life, etc. So as you grow bigger and bigger, the training becomes much more important, because when you're a smaller business, you're the owner, you're there the whole time. It's going to be osmosis. The training is osmosis style, right? You just show people as they move forward. I learned over time that's obviously not doable. We have now 500 employees that work for our organization, Busboys and Poets in Edenville, and so it became impossible for me to really sit down and train everybody. And oftentimes, I train the trainers and they train others and so on. But what I find really the most interesting thing is to train your employees on the culture of the organization. That's far more important than learning to serve from the right or the left. Most customers don't really care whether you serve them from the right or clear from the left. That's not, that's the sort of classic dining rules don't really apply, certainly not in my restaurants. But I think it's really important, and that what I find the most significant thing is making sure that the people that I hire have similar values and similar ideas about what my spaces are about specifically. I do orientations about once every 3 or 4 weeks for any new group of people that are coming in. And I begin by talking to them about what we call our tribal statement, which is the statement of values that we all have as a group. And part of it is talking about how we consciously uplift racial and cultural connections amongst people, why we bring art, culture, and politics to sort of collide and create this wonderful experience. And I ask them on an individual basis, what do you think about what do you think about waiting on black people? That seems like a shocking question sometimes to ask somebody, but there's a lot of perceptions about who tips and who doesn't, and who you give good service to and who you don't give good service to. It's all in people's heads, and it doesn't matter if you're black or white as a server, they all know it. They all know that the young white couple, the gay guy especially, are going to be the best tippers. And who do you think are the worst tippers in their perception? Shout it out. Black people. Women, black women. You guys are the worst tippers, okay? I just want you to know that. So it's funny, but our marketing director, a black woman, she said, I tip 30%. Now, she walks into the restaurant, they think she's not gonna make a good tip, so they give her bad service, and when she gets bad service, she won't tip badly, even if she gets bad service, because she wants to overcome that stereotype. But she said, I will talk to the manager about it. So we talk about these things at our orientation, at least the one with me. I just had an orientation just a couple days ago, and I said, how many of you here feel uncomfortable around gay people? And 2 people raised their hands. And I said, what is it? What's the issue? And one of them said, well, if somebody comes up and 2 gay guys, and when somebody hits up on me, I'm going to say, whoa, man, I'm not into that. And I said, you really going to say that to them? And he said, yeah. He said, I think it's weird, man. I said, do me a favor, can you please leave? I asked him to leave the restaurant. Now, I could have spent, some therapy with him and said, I sat down with him for some time and talked about all social issues. I honestly didn't have that kind of time and that kind of energy. So for me, that person's not going to fit in. I don't care how good a waiter they are, they're not going to fit in. So I asked him to leave, and he was not happy. He said, I thought you guys are about tolerance. I said, we are, but not that kind of tolerance. You need to leave. So that's how I do my training. Thank you.
Okay. Well, Inspire Barbecue was founded to train high schools individuals from diverse backgrounds. So we bring together young persons from all parts, all over the city, Some of them from hoods or crews, they're not supposed to get along. So we start with training. We start with training through the mindset that you deserve to work at any place you want to work, and get into the ethics of working on a purpose that is beyond just how much money I'm gonna make. So these young persons learn how to value what they do and put that love into it in a way that they can walk into any establishment and be hired, because they don't just stay as chefs. Some of them realize that, hey, I don't want to be a chef, I want to own a restaurant. So they learn about the entrepreneurial mindset. So training, we have found, has opened their minds to the possibilities of living life on purpose the way they decide to live. And that changes us as a business, because now we have an energy that helps us to grow, and grow in a way where everyone understands you have to have a library card if you work for Inspire. I'm always going to ask you what book you're reading. I'm always going to ask you to be prepared with your black book at our meetings, because note-taking is important. And this is not a culture that a lot of these young persons grow up in. Grow up writing. So even if you have to draw a picture, write it down so that you understand that you can get it. So training is everything to an individual, and it starts with the individual knowing that the training is yours, because once you have that information, you can go anywhere in the world with it. So even a small company that's just starting, train yourself, because that's how I started. I mean, reading E-Myths and all these other books, and he gives me ideas to read also, and mentoring. We have to get back to making sure that when we go into a business, small or large, you find a mentor. You find somebody in that restaurant or somebody in that corporate structure that can give you some of that guidance that you need. And it might not even be somebody that you can physically talk to, but you can sure enough watch them in a way. So training and mentoring and just being on purpose has helped the business grow to where it is. So I really would ask that other companies really do it more often. They can see the benefit.
I have just one more question, and then we're going to open it up to the audience to see if any of you have some questions you'd like to ask. But my last question is, how do you see the relationship between the worker, consumer, and owner changing in the future? And what trends do you see or foresee for the DC restaurant industry?
That's too hard a question for me. Why don't you start?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. We have to get back to honesty and customer service. I mean, in a world where everybody's on their, look around now, everybody's on their device. Hello, a hug, a thank you very much. Yeah, a hug, a thank you very much. All of those things, we have to get back to that. We have to get back to that human experience where that I care enough to smile and then ask you, how can I help you? Because I'm happy to see you here. And I'm happy to serve you because you are allowing me to do what I do, and because I'm on purpose. And a lot of times when we in these computer devices, or I'm gonna call and get my groceries delivered to the door, I don't see the person who delivers it, I leave the box outside for someone to pick it up. We have not, so until we crash, we don't touch. So at Inspire Barbecue, from the moment you walk in that door, we want someone to say hello, we want someone to smile, and we want someone to care. And we want to connect that experience, because, see, everyone eats barbecue differently. I just met a brother today, I'm not going to point him out to you, but he's over there, who, who tells me where he's from, and then he mentioned his barbecue experience. And that's like, yeah, that's real. And that goes back to his childhood. And that childhood is something that means something to him now. So at Inspire Barbecue, we want to know how you eat barbecue. Where you from? Because this is DC style barbecue, and this is how it's different, but this is how it's similar. So we connect all of those experiences because we care, and we need to get back to caring. As customers come in, slow down a little bit. Enjoy Busboys Report, enjoy it. And enjoy the person who's serving you, because that individual is really serving you because, not just because of their job, especially if they're Edenville. I mean, they're like, and that's a good experience. So if that goes both ways, we can get back to being human with one another. And I think that's something that we have to really push to not lose in this world of computers and robots coming soon.
I love this guy, really. So Inspired Barbecue also. So I want to just point back at him.
Thank you.
But I think consumers need to know a little bit more as well. We talked about human rights issues and all of that, but it's funny how consumers know more about their chickens than they know about the person that's serving their chicken. And I always think that that's interesting, that they care about the name of the cow, where the meat came from, and could care less about the name of the cook that's making it, and as any of you know who've been cooked, you can take the best cut of meat. If you don't cook it with love and you don't cook it well, it tastes like crap. So it's not, so for me, trying to educate consumers at some level to let them understand that it's not okay to just have cage-free eggs. You need cage-free employees as well.
Yes.
And I think the organic movement, the food movement has done a really good job in highlighting the issues that are around food. In many ways, there's a real trend and a caring about local and about organic and about gluten-free and all of that stuff. People know a lot about that kind of stuff these days, and that happened in a fairly rapid succession over the past few years. I would like to see a president or a wife of a president take on the issue of employees, take on the issue of minimum wage and those types of issues. It would be wonderful, because I think it may take that kind of impetus to get things rolling a little bit more rapidly. But short of that, not going to happen anytime real soon, I have a feeling. But I think short of that, I think having consumers become more involved and more aware. I think that's one of the biggest strengths that Rock brings to the table, is they really do look at that forgotten part of the restaurant business. The food part is perfect. I mean, it's really interesting when you're establishing a restaurant. Oftentimes it's the last person that you think about is the employees. You think about the decor, you think about the curtain and the upholstery and the chairs and the faucets and all the little, if you're a chef, you're the person that's creating the food, but the employees are kind of an afterthought almost. And that seems a little strange, because many of you, I'm sure, have been in situations where it's a great restaurant, you walk in, if you're not welcomed, you don't feel loved, you don't feel cared for, it doesn't matter what they're serving. That's not what you're going to go back to. So it's a real challenge, I think, that we have before us. I think having these types of guides and these types of things, I think, are really useful to sort of get people thinking about the issue a little bit more, just like they started thinking about cage-free eggs and those types of things. I think I always wonder at the end of the night, when people have spent hundreds of dollars on a meal, sometimes they may be the last person out of the door. They don't even know if their dishwasher who's going to clean up after them even has a home to go to. Nor do they care at some level, really, So I found that somewhat fascinating and interesting. I think they're, out of sight, out of mind kind of idea that happens in our society, that we oftentimes neglect these things that are, I think, the most obvious and most important sometimes to us. So I commend Rock, I think, for bringing this to the forefront. And I think with enough these conversations, I'm seeing a momentum. I'm seeing there's an interest in this. I was on the Restaurant Association for a while. I was on the board of the local restaurant association. And, I ended up losing the battle, really. I got tired of being the only voice that says, this is wrong, we need to do this, we need to do that. I need to get back into it, and I think a lot more people need to get back into it and really continue the struggle to say, this is not about whether or not you care about me or I care about you. This is really about a human rights issue, and as a society we have to move forward on this issue and stop dragging our feet on it. So that's all. Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you both.
Thank you.
And now, does anybody in the audience have any questions for Chef Tate or Andy?
Yes, thanks for coming again, gentlemen. I had a quick question. I was hoping you guys could elaborate a little bit more about the specific sick day policies that you implement at your restaurants. How much sick leave do you guys give to your employees? I know DC proposed 7 sick days. Do you think that's too much or too little? And then also, how does the sick pay work? Do you give your employees the $2.13 an hour for the sick days, or is there a certain rate? How does that work?
That's a very good question. We give, for full-time employees, 9 days per year sick leave. The way that it works, it's accrued over time. And the way that it works for tipped employees, because that's always the challenge. In fact, tipped employees are exempt from the law in DC. If you're a tipped employee, you're not eligible for sick leave by policy. But the way that we do it is we do give it to our tipped employees, everybody, full-time or part-time, everybody gets sick leave. We pay the tipped employees $9.25 an hour when they're sick. Our minimum wage, our internal minimum wage is $10.25 an hour for non-tipped employees and $9.25 an hour for tipped employees. Now, it's a little bit of a misnomer to say that tipped employees make only $2.13 an hour. I just want to clarify that. From a restaurant perspective, that is not true. I know that that's how much they get on their paycheck, but they also make tips. And we can't ignore that. So it seems a little unfair to say restaurants pay their employees $2.13 an hour. I mean, we pay them $1 more an hour anyway. So if it's $2.13, I think in DC it's higher. What's the minimum wage? $2.13? I'm sorry?
$2.77, I believe.
It's like $2.77. So we pay $3.77 for tipped employees, just waiters. That is, I'm talking. When waiters don't make that amount of money in tips, we subsidize it to bring it to our minimum wage. So, and by law, in DC, even if you're paying $2.13 an hour, if let's say you walk into a restaurant and you're working that day and nobody shows up, okay, you make 0 in tips, the restaurant has to make up the difference to bring you up to minimum wage in DC, which is $8.25 an hour. So that's required by law. Now, there's a lot of wage theft and a lot of stuff. A lot of waiters don't know that. A lot of waiters, assume that their check is going to be 0, when they get it. They're not looking for a paycheck. They're looking for cash. So oftentimes, there is wage theft in that area. But I think it's important to understand that they're not making $2.13 an hour. They're making minimum wage like everybody else.
We're 8 days, and so far no one has taken the whole 8 days, and it's $10 an hour. Again, we are a small company, and we have found that carrying, it actually comes back. So, real simple.
By the way, the law also exempts part-time employees. So if you're a part-time employee and you're a tipped employee in DC, even with the progressive law that just passed, it still doesn't count them in.
First of all, great presentation. We really enjoyed it. Haven't had the many occasions to go to Busboys and Poets. Let me say, good food, good service, and damn good politics. And the atmosphere there is great. The fact is that I think many of the people in this audience are union employees. And I just want to urge you, please go to these union positive employee favorable restaurants. Human rights. I mean, I was so glad to hear you say it's an issue of human rights, because all of us understand it. And most of us at one time or another, what it was gender, whether it was race, whether it was religion, or whatever, have been victimized by practices that are anti-human rights. So again, a great presentation. I didn't have a question, I just wanted to compliment you, and thank you very much.
I think here in the middle had her hands up.
As a former busser, server, and bartender, I want to say thank you. I think that it's really important that people like you are involved in the Restaurant Association, though, too. Who's going to make that change if the people who care about it aren't there?
Yes, ma'am.
I think it's very meaningful the way that you do treat your employees. It will result in people having a better attitude, treating your customers better, and you making more money as a result. Do you all provide, in addition to the sick days, do you provide health benefits?
Yes.
So there is access for your employees to get on board. Do they have to be a full-time staff member, or how do you go about being enrolled in that program?
One of the trainings that we provide is to be a Washingtonian. Washington has so many social services that go untapped. So one of the things we do is we assist our young persons to access a lot of the social services that Washington has for them. The dental programs, because you're 19 years old and you're really by yourself and your teeth hurt. You don't really know where you have services, so we assist you in finding access to even going as far as I'm going to a funeral and I need a suit. There are places around that we actually assist our staff because they come through our training. Because sometimes I got a good paycheck, Tate, but that's already allocated because I'm taking care of my brother also, who is in elementary school. But I do need a suit because my friend just got murdered. So we have to meet our young people where they are and look at the social services and the resources that the city offers and help them to access those services in a way that they don't feel ashamed to go and say, I need a tie or I need a suit, because it's there for you. And that helps us to kind of help our bottom line also, because again, we are a small company. I hope that answered your question.
I think that's another human rights issue that we look at as some sort of like we have to change policy, and hopefully consumers will like rise up and overthrow the government and change whatever. It's like, come on, this is a human rights issue. Really, it needs to be addressed that like that. But and again, under Saddam Hussein, everybody had health care in Iraq. Just saying, I'm not a Saddam Hussein advocate here, but I'm just saying even
that's
in
twice now.
Twice now, right? Saddam Hussein, Barack Obama, health care, no health care. You tell me, right? But anyway. It's an issue that we really need to address as a country. I mean, you saw the healthcare debate and where it went, and it started to become really weird after a while. And I think we see healthcare as being a luxury, as if not everybody gets sick, and we look at it that way. I mean, almost like you can buy it or you don't have to buy it. And now there's some movement in understanding that everybody gets sick, and we need to all come and sort of pitch in to make it work. So I think in that sense it's a bigger issue. But we do offer health care for all of our employees. If you're part-time, you have to buy it. If you're full-time, you get 50%. For all of our hourly employees, get 50% of their health care paid for. All of our salaried employees get 100% of their health care paid for. Our top management gets not only 100% of their own, they get 100% for their family. It's a very, very expensive proposition for us.
Very.
But we think it's worth it. I mean, really. I mean, that's the bottom line. Because if it's not worth it, you don't do it. You're in business, right? We're not a charity. So if it didn't work, we wouldn't be doing it.
One of the things we had to do also too, we have like H&R Block has helped us to really look at how we're going to navigate through all of these new tax laws that are affecting us, our insurance providers. So we look at not just the services for the young persons. I'm a small business person. I'm going to call Andy Handy. How did you do that? Okay, I actually connect up with larger companies who help guide me in, that's a good idea, Tate, but this is how to do it. Because some of the stuff that I want to do, I'm not able to do. But the stuff that I do well because of the partners that we have to help us. So H&R Block.
I think the other thing we do, and I think Chef Tate sort of touched on it, is there are sort of like almost like laws of nature in the restaurant business. You act a certain way, you do certain things, and you come to realize that. Like the economy, it's not like gravity. It's not like part of nature. that when we talk about the economy can change. You know, it's not the only one way to do things. And I think in the restaurant business, we oftentimes look at role models, look at other mentors, look at how other businesses do it. And people, when they go to business school, they study these things, and they study certain trends and certain numbers and certain percentages and so on. For instance, in the restaurant business, you're supposed to maintain a payroll at 30% or below. That's a successful business. Our payroll goes to 36, 37%. We're still very successful. We're opening more restaurants, just so you know. So for me, it's like if I was listening to my MBA, degree person telling me how it's supposed to be done, I would say, that's just, I must be doing something wrong if I'm not adhering to certain standards of the business. And I think the standards of the business need to change. And standards change when people take risks and move in a direction that doesn't seem to be the mainstream. And suddenly it seems like it's okay, this guy didn't fall, we have sick leave. Now if you do sick leave and you calculate every single person taking sick leave that day and going out and getting sick, logically the restaurant would not operate. But that's not what happens. So you look at trends and you look and see, and once people do it, they could say, oh well, they've done it and this is now an average or a percentage, and that becomes part of the new lexicon. So I think we need to constantly, as new businesses, we need to constantly take risks and kind of stick our neck out there and see, like, we didn't do any number crunching when we went to sick leave. I didn't sit there in a back room with my accountant and say, let's figure out how to do this thing, I don't talk like that, but anyway, not even in the back room. So I said, it sounds like the right thing to do. Let's try it. And it was like, okay, it's like, you're dipping your toe in the water. And you try it and, hey, didn't hurt. Let's try a little more. And we push further, and we push further, and we push further, till everyone in our company now has sick leave.
I think we have another question.
And we still haven't fallen. I'm sorry.
We have time for one more question.
My name is Rudy Arredondo with the National Latino Farmers and Ranchers, and I want to commend the National Consumer League and certainly Busboys and Poets. We used your venue for the Rural Coalition and the Latino Farmers venues to do things here in D.C.
Thank you.
One of the things that I want to offer you is I'd like to, we have just acquired 20,000 cattlemen in northern New Mexico and Taos that have cattle to be processed. So we want to make sure that there's a human rights from field to table. And we will work with you. And right now we are very, very focused on the Farm Bill. So I would like to invite all of those of you who are here, because it impacts you. 80% of the budget for the Department of Agriculture is food and nutrition programs. And we want to make sure that we have the right kind of food that we are ingesting ourselves. So thank you so much for what you do, and we're very supportive of all the things that you're doing. Thank you.
Thank you very much. There's some great farms locally that are grass-fed, that take care of their cattle, that don't do this mass processing and don't give them antibiotics and all kinds of crap that they feed them. We actually, whenever we sign up a new purveyor, I actually go down there and check it out myself. I wanted to go meet the cows. I wanted to see them, and I did. I really did. I wanted to see how they operate, because oftentimes you hear this, grass-fed, and they're stuck in a little, little tiny little square, and they throw like a blade of grass to them every now and then, So that's not how I wanted to see it. So we actually went there to the farm where we buy our meat from, and I drove for a long time, and I could not find one cow. I said, where the hell are the cows? Because I know that's where meat comes from, right? So
Andy?
they said they're out grazing somewhere.
Did you have your book with you when you went?
This book?
Yeah. Gotta have this book. Everyone has to have this book.
This is an infomercial.
That's right. Everyone, please take your book out of your package, keep it with you. When you go into a restaurant, when you're just sitting and thinking about what restaurants to go to, this is the guide that you should be using. Not just because Andy's in here and I'm in here, because there are people needing you to use this to help us continue this movement. It takes all of us. So please share the videos and share this book with a loved one too. Thank you.
Andy, Chef Tate, thank you again for coming.
Thank you.